You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I'm Mindy, joined by my wonderful pilot, husband, controller guy, Kevin.
Captain Kevin to you.
You will never be my captain.
Okay.
Thank you guys for writing in. As always, last week we shared some topics to get you pondering about some things, but write into us about anything. Head to our website, CaptainJohnDoe.com. Stay anonymous if you want to, or put your name in there and we will shout you out. So thanks for helping make this podcast go. It's going on you guys.
Should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right. I have a topic that's not nearly as scandalous as normal.
Boo.
I know. But I thought I was reading it and I was like, this is kind of fun.
Don't tell me it's a feel-good story.
It is. Well, I look at it like, we've talked about that I've changed careers. I was a controller and now I want to be a pilot. When I'm captain of, let's say, some big old airplane, when I'm sitting at the gate waiting for my plane, I'm probably going to engage with some people.
Oh my gosh, you are such a stereotypical pilot. We flew on a commercial flight yesterday and me and Kevin didn't sit together. It's a long story.
It's not that long.
Okay, it's not a long story.
We got upgraded and our seats were separated.
Yeah, we got upgraded and our seats were separated. I asked the guy next to me, tell me this. If someone came up to you and was like, hey, me and my husband got separated, would you mind switching? Would you switch? Yeah, probably. And it was a 5-hour flight at night over the ocean. And I went up to the guy next to me and said, hey, me and my husband got switched. Would you mind switching with him? And Kevin was not in a window seat. And this guy just blankly stares at me, probably like in his mid-40s. And he's like, I want the window. I'm like, okay, dude, it's a nighttime ocean flight, but whatever. I'll sit next to you for 5 hours while my husband sits somewhere else. And then why did your guy not switch? Or did you not ask?
So, to be fair, we were in first class and they were lie-down seats. And the guy sitting next to me was just ripping Crown and Cokes with his two buddies sitting to the left of him. Yeah, and I was like, they were having a great time. So I didn't even care to break that up. But he did see me go up to Mindy. He's like, bro, why didn't you tell me? I would have switched. And I was like, no, man, you were having a great time partying on the
vacation.
flight.
Like, we were flying home to Vegas. Obviously, a lot of people vacation in Vegas. And he was obviously traveling with his two friends, going on vacation, ripping drinks, laughing, carrying on, having a great time.
It was his first time in first class because he told me, don't worry. I was like, yeah, man, enjoy it.
Well, and the funniest part is we're getting off the plane. When I'm traveling, I talk to nobody. It's not safe to talk to strangers. I don't.
I'm a big bear, Mindy.
And Kevin, you guys know the funny joke of how do you know someone's a pilot?
I'm a pilot.
They'll tell you. And my husband, Kevin, sitting right here is no different. We're getting off the plane and all these guys are like, hey, I hope you guys have a great night. And all these guys that Kevin befriended in their section, he's like, you guys both stay safe when you guys are out there flying. Like, obviously, Kevin had told them that we were pilots, and we get out into the terminal. I was like, Kevin, how did it come up that you felt the need to tell these people that we're pilots? Like, you're such a loser.
They just knew.
No, you told them, which is funny. I was like, I travel so much more than you by myself for my job and all this stuff. It never comes out of my mouth. Listen, especially on a commercial flight. You think I'm going to say the words, I'm a pilot, and have people start asking me questions? Nope.
I got answers for them.
I do too, but I don't want to talk to these people.
So with that being said,
instead I'm going to have a talk show.
When you see me at the gate or on the plane, come talk to me.
Oh yeah.
I'll talk back.
Oh my gosh. I'm picturing you with your 4 bars and your pilot uniform and you got the hat on.
No beard either. Ooh.
It's going to be weird. And I can just see you in the airport, like, gather around everybody. I have stories to tell. Come on. You're pulling people from the aisle. Come on. I'm only going to tell this once. Come on over here. And I see you just like in a rocking chair in the middle of the terminal.
That would be like awesome.
You're going to be like Santa Claus. You're going to be like Santa pilot. And you're like, come on, everybody. do I have a gift of flight for you? And you're going to tell him these stupid stories and jokes. I can already see
I
it.
can't wait for the future. So,
Right, tell your
anyways, with all that being said, just imagine me as these pilots, what I'm about to say. So, traveling from JFK to ATX on Sunday night, that happened to be the same night as the third season of the Game of Thrones finale. Incoming plane was delayed by some obscene amount of time, so everyone, including the crew, was just sort of waiting around the gate area. I opened up my giant work laptop, threw on my headphones, and started streaming the episode, since there was literally nothing else to do. A couple minutes in, I got a tap on the shoulder. I turned around, and the two pilots were behind me asking if they could watch along too. I put my laptop up where we could all see it, and we ended up watching almost the whole episode together. Had to cut it short when the incoming plane finally landed, which was excruciating, but we were all glad to have at least caught some of it. Anyway, the pilots thanked me and peeled off to do their thing, and I thought that was that. But when I went on board, the gate agent told me I'd been upgraded and that my food and beverages would be complimentary as a thanks from the pilots. First class was full, but I did get a little bump to Comfort Plus and enough booze that I was still drunk the next morning at work.
Okay, I love that we just found out it's Delta.
How did you figure that out?
Comfort Plus. We're Delta people. Okay, that's a really funny story. Those pilots are chill.
Yeah. How would you, like, that's what I want to be. That's all I'm going to do.
I can see you bothering everyone in this. I really do.
I think that's really awesome.
No, that's cool. I love that they upgraded him and gave him drinks and stuff. That's a great little feel good story.
See, a little feel good. I know we've been a little crass and a little crazy, and we want the dirty secrets, but sometimes there's just simple stories that might make somebody go, "Oh, this is a nice experience. They're people. They care. We're in a shitty situation together, so let's make the most of it."
I love it. Okay, I have one too that might lead to a feel good moment based on our answers. Convince me we're not going to regret buying our first airplane.
Impossible.
The wife and I are dinks. Do you know what a dink is?
Dual income, no kids.
Yeah, we're in that situation, people. Me and Kevin have been married for a minute and we don't have kids because we spend all of our money on stuff like airplanes. All right. The wife and I are dinks. No mortgage, no debt. We're both pilots and relatively young, under 30. We have access to a hangar at no cost to us thanks to a close family friend who's got some extra room in hers. We've settled on a 182 and we're budgeting about $150,000. The plan is to finance 50% to save some liquidity for unexpected repairs. Smart. Our household income is roughly $300,000 and combined net worth in the $750,000 range, although only about $350,000 of it is liquid. The rest is in property and retirement accounts. We've figured $20,000 a year to own and operate about 100 hours. Part of me feels like we have the ability to send it and enjoy our remaining time without kids or bigger responsibilities flying around the U.S. But the other part of me reads way too many financial subs to think this is a wise way to spend my money. What do you say, my fellow pilots? I can't imagine you'd all give me bad financial advice.
All right, so we'll get serious for a second. There is nothing smart financially about buying a plane like that.
Unless it's used for business.
That's why I said like that.
Now let's insert asterisk that I'm an aircraft sales broker and I'm definitely going to slay everyone listening right now to buy an airplane.
Here's the reality. People in, let's just throw a very generic number out there, 300,000 and less. Those typically are not business use planes, typically.
Right.
Those are personal hobbyists.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You know, you're looking at newer or later model airplanes if you're using for business.
Not a requirement to everyone listening. You can have $100,000 business plane. Just gonna throw that out there.
But I could tell you,
but typically it's not the case.
As an airplane owner, Mindy and I both would agree for we own a plane for 5 or 6 years now.
Well, let's share. We originally bought a Cub Crafter when. How old was I? Kevin wasn't a pilot. I bought this plane, a little tailwheel plane, a Sport Cub. And I bought that when I was 25. I think I was 25 when I bought that, and owned it for about a year and a half and sold it because then Kevin, he was an air traffic controller at Atlanta Center at the time and wanted to become a pilot. He started getting his license. I had been a CFI for several years. However, I was new to tailwheel. So I was, self-admittedly not the best tailwheel instructor because I didn't know how far to let you go with the plane. I didn't want to get us both in trouble, and we were operating out of a pretty tricky spot. We lived in a hangar home on a grass strip surrounded by 100-foot trees on all four sides. Long enough, but it was a tricky strip, especially for a brand new pilot and someone learning tailwheel. So we'd often would fly out of there and I'd take you to a safer grass strip to practice in, and it just wasn't clicking.
I didn't know what to do with my feet.
Oh my God. You heard once to dance on the rudder pedals.
I did a tutu on it.
Out of your head, and we'd be perfectly straight, and then you'd stomp left and stomp right.
It was never the landing. The landing was never the problem. It was honestly takeoff, and then once that tail wheel hit the ground after landing, it just felt like we were going for a ride.
Yeah.
And that was early on. I mean, I had no experience at all, and you did your best. And I think if we would have kept pushing, it would have been okay.
It's just, I'll be honest, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to teach you in that plane. It was stressful for me, and I had bought that plane as a passion project.
And it was underpowered for both of us because it was a sport cup.
Yeah, well, I bought that because we were living on a grass strip. And at the time, I was working selling aircraft, a demo pilot on all these different types of Cessnas and Beechcrafts. And I wanted a fun plane. I wanted a Sunday afternoon cruiser. I wanted something different, a new challenge. So I'm like, I want to get into tailwheel. So that's what I did. But when you came in the picture, it became not the best option for us because it was hard for me to teach in it. It was hard for you to learn in it. We were at a tricky spot. So anyways, we sold it when you got into more flying, and we wanted to start traveling more. So we're like, let's get a plane that we can load up and go somewhere. Because we went on one trip in the Cub Crafter, and we both got to take like an extra T-shirt, and we went up to Kentucky, and it took like 2 days to get there from Georgia.
Forever.
So we were like, this is not a travel plane. It was fun, but you have to have a lot of time. And we both have full-time jobs, so we are weekend warriors. We usually have one night to play with or 2 nights to play with. So if you want to travel in a low and slow plane, you've got to have time on your hands. And I'm not against that, but we just didn't have the time. So we decided to sell it and really wanted a 182. And we looked and looked and looked and looked our heart out to the point where I was like, screw this. I don't even want to buy a plane anymore. I was so exhausted.
It was during
COVID.
So we started looking before COVID.
Correct.
And our budget wasn't a ton. We wanted to spend what we pretty much sold the Cub Crafter for.
Actually, our budget is similar to these folks that wrote in. We wanted to spend ideally around 150. I wanted to keep it under 200,000. And what we were looking at with 182s, this is such a similar.
Yeah. So if you remember, if we think back prior to COVID, if that was your budget, you could get an unbelievably equipped 182, like potentially even in an S model, potentially. So with that being said, we were
in the low twos. Yeah.
We were at that point where we were looking at, an airplane in the 2000s because our Cub Crafter was a 2006. So like there's no reason that we would go much older than that. And then COVID happened. And then all those planes, as we know, appreciated 3 times the cost overnight.
It was exhausting. So we were like, wow, we're at top of our budget, $200,000, looking at complete turds. Turds. And what do we mean by turds?
Like I'm trying to remember, a Q model with 2,500 hours on the engine, no avionics. Like
clapped out,
just like clapped out,
never restored, panel interior, exterior,
nothing.
Just like sad planes that needed facelifts, which I'm not against a project, which we're about to tell you. So anyways, we're looking at, wow, we're going to spend all of our money and get a turd. And it wasn't fun. And we looked at logbooks on so many, and I was just so exhausted by the whole process, and I stopped looking. And then one day we're sitting on the couch just watching TV, and Kevin's surfing Facebook, and he finds an ad for this gorgeous airplane, this bare aluminum, polished 182, straight tail. That was never on my radar.
Nothing that old.
It was a 1957 vintage plane, but in great shape. It had under 2,000 hours total time. It had under 500 hours on the engine since overhaul. It did not have a huge facelift on the panel, but the panel was in great shape, nearly original. It had some
the interior was original and in great shape.
Yep, because it was so lightly used, and we just fell in love with it. And I never, ever, ever thought I would buy a vintage plane, because at that point, the last 6 years of my career, I had been selling brand new airplanes. I have been used to the new equipment, new parts. All the controls are nice and tight. There's no one's boogers under the seat. I was very spoiled. So when we were looking at this vintage one, I was like, whoa. But then we look into it a little more, and it's literally like a third of our budget, under a third of our budget. Like, it's like so cheap. I was like, wow, what's wrong with it? Nothing. It's just an old plane. So I was like, okay, well, what if we save some of our budget, kind of like how these people are talking about, which is really smart, and put that towards any restoration projects we want to do? Because it does need a little bit of love, but it's in a great structure shape. And so we bought it, and it was during COVID. I was on a lot of work trips at the time, which was interesting. We bought it sight unseen. This is all not recommended, by the way, what we're about to say. Bought it sight unseen.
Coming from a professional.
I do this for a living, and I would not recommend what I did. But I looked at Kevin, and I was like, the planes were flying off the shelf. And I was like, if we want this plane, we have to move on it immediately, or we're going to lose it, which means we're not going to be able to go see it. They're not going to hold it for a showing. We're just going to have to buy it and hope for the best. And I was like, what's the worst that happens? We get the plane and there's something wrong with it and we fix it, or we get the plane and we hate it and I'll just resell it. It's what I do for a living. Like, whatever. Let's take the risk. So we did put an offer in. We put an offer in and send a deposit immediately to escrow. And it was just a guy off of Facebook too. Just like hoping for the best. I made the contract. I set up the escrow account, all this stuff, because I do that for a living. This guy, he just kind of like does little flips on the side, but doesn't usually do it this professionally. So I kind of ran charge on that. And I think he liked that. It was like, oh, we have an experienced buyer, even though it was my second plane I've bought. But I've bought and sold a lot of planes for people. So I knew what I was doing. And I think that made him comfortable, because the next day we talked to him and he says, well, good thing you guys put a deposit down and I'm going to honor it. He's like, but since talking to you guys were the first phone call I got on the ad. He goes, I've taken 20 phone calls on this plane, people offering over my list price. Even a museum wanted to
double over. Like,
was that the museum offer?
There is a museum that offered literally double the price of what he was asking.
And he said, I'm an honest guy and I'm going to, I said I was going to sell you guys this plane, so I'm not going to chase the money. And I was like, bullshit. Like, what's wrong with this?
Yeah.
There's something wrong here. And then we get into the logistics of buying it. So we close, still never seen the plane. I did order a pre-buy from a guy I've never met, never heard of. There was no like great maintenance on the field. It was in Montana, and we found a mechanic, and I didn't even get a pre-buy report. He just sent me a text saying, this plane looks good.
The wings are beautiful.
He said the inside of this plane is gorgeous. I was like, thanks, man. What about like anything else?
Compressions are good.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, we're just gonna, like, this plane was so cheap, like we just gotta like roll with it. And then I'm on a work trip. I'm like, well, I can't go fetch it from Montana. And so we hire a ferry pilot that we've never heard of, never met, just kind of found this guy on Facebook.
And he was a mechanic too. I like that.
Yes. He goes and gets the plane, brings it to Georgia, drops it off in our backyard at our hangar home, hands us the keys. And so I was like, good luck. Plane flew great here. And we're like, then I'm looking at this thing. I have at this point have hundreds of hours in Skylanes, but not vintage, straight tail, anything.
Carburetor.
Yeah, well, our Cub Crafter was carbureted, but and then I'm looking at this plane like, ruh-roh, like, no one's here to teach me how to fly this thing. My insurance was like, have fun. Like, there's no checkout required, nor do I know who would have checked me out in it. I was like, well, a plane's a plane. Let's fire this baby up.
You remember the POH, what it said?
It didn't say anything. The POH was like 3 pages long.
It literally said, start the engine, and after 30 seconds, you're good to go.
Yeah.
That's what it says in the POH.
And do you know in the POH what the emergency section says?
There is none.
Correct. It says nothing. There's 0 emergency procedures. Anyway, I read the POH up and down, left and right, did so much research online about these planes, blah, blah. Finally, I was like, if I sit on this and stew on this any longer, I'm just going to get like afraid to fly it. And like, I wasn't afraid to fly it because it was old. I was afraid to fly it because I don't know a thing about this plane. Like the history of this plane, I hardly know. Like, this just felt weird. But we took it up for the first time on Thanksgiving out of our grass strip, which again is a very tricky strip. So I was shitting bricks on the takeoff. I did a short field takeoff with portacles to it. Everything went fine. We lifted off and I just like, oh my God. I can't believe it's flying. I can't believe we're in the air. This is freaking wild. So then we went on a little test flight. We went and flew to a local airport, did a landing there. Everything was beautiful. And then over time, we have slowly restored it. And we have gone on some pretty incredible adventures in this aircraft.
The latest one might be the best, right?
Which one?
Maybe flying it from Orlando to Las Vegas.
That was quite the adventure. And it's played a crucial part in Kevin's career change of him becoming a professional pilot. He's logged so much time in airplanes, and that's been essential to getting his time up and experience. And I've got to teach you a lot in our airplane.
So I think to circle back to the original story.
Wait, there was a story here? It's not just about us?
Like buy the plane. That's what we're saying. Financing. How do I say that word? Speaking in finances terms, it doesn't make a lot of sense to own an airplane. But what does make sense is the story we just
live your life. We've had the best experiences and time and adventures on our plane. I think it's grew us closer as a couple. We've gone through so many like hardships and troubles with the plane, as well as successes and victories, and had it on display at Garmin Aviation at Oshkosh. Like the most highest regarded thing you can do, we've got to do with our airplane. So we have had, it's almost like our baby, like, and we're so proud of this project. And it's literally taken us all over the country. And I've gone to friends' baby showers in it. I've gone to work meetings in it. I have photographed so many aircraft listings of mine and use it for my business. I have done so much with it, and I have trained you. You did so much of your instrument training in that airplane. A lot of your commercial stuff taught you so much about real weather, real cross countries, like literally crossing the country in a small plane in February.
So back to that one more thing, like Mindy is the best person to talk about like what makes sense to buy the plane. I could tell you 20 grand a year, even without hangar rent, that's probably not real. Like you might be able to get there, but
no, I think that's about right.
You think so?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Without having to pay hangar. Yeah, that's absolutely.
I think a big question people always ask is annuals and maintenance cost.
Who knows?
That's the thing. Cause when I see on these Facebook groups that, oh, the annual cost between $500 and $2,000.
Oh, no, that's not true.
That's not true. Like, don't buy into that. The answer is who knows.
Our
like, it truly is who knows.
Have cost anywhere with the Cub Crafter. We had really cheap annuals, but we had friends that were mechanics, and that's a very simple machine. On the 182, we've had annuals as low as like $3,500, as much as $20,000.
Listen to that again, 3,500 to 20,000.
Yeah, you have to, if you are a spreadsheet guy and you're like, oh, let me see if this fits in my Excel sheet and matches with my finances for the year, don't buy an airplane.
There's no way of knowing. I mean, I know a lot of people will bill themselves hourly, but that will never account for just this sheer amount of unknowns. I mean, we've had an electrical issue that completely took us out that would have never been forecasted or never been seen.
Right. So to these folks that are writing in about their situation, their household income is $300,000 a year. They're doing great with their retirement accounts and property accounts. They seem like responsible people and they're crushing it. They're only going to make more money as they age. They're under 30. So I say do it. And if you go 1 or 2 years with this ownership and you're like, man, that costs way more than I thought, just sell the plane.
Just sell it.
And just be done with it. But you tried. I know several people that have bought a plane for a year or two just to see what it was all about. And I was like, yeah, I that chapter was fun. And now I want to spend my money on other things. But I don't see why you wouldn't give it a go. And you got to live your life. We all hope we make it to retirement, right? But the reality is some of us won't. So you need to enjoy your life now. So I've always been a huge cheerleader of being really responsible with my savings and retirement and everything. Should I make it there? And I hope and I have every intention to. But if life happens, I want to go out knowing that I went on those trips I wanted to go on that I could afford with whatever situation I'm in, and that I got to own an airplane, and I got to go to New Zealand with my husband, and I got to do these amazing things that, yeah, Dave Ramsey would put me in my grave for. But I don't care.
There's a difference between saying I'm gonna do it versus I'm doing it now.
You just got to do it. And if it doesn't work out, so what? Go have fun and be like, oh, that was more money than I thought. Let's sell it. We had a bad year this year. Who cares? Don't spend all your money. Don't be house poor. That's silly too. But there's balance.
I like it. We could talk forever there. All right.
Last story for today.
Let's move on back to my industry. All right.
What's your industry?
I'm a CFI.
Oh, okay. I was hoping you were going to say ATC. I'm like, move on.
I've moved on.
I know you have.
All right. This one says, electrical failure during discovery flight. Today, my boyfriend and I went on a discovery flight. About halfway through, we entered Class B airspace, and the CFI noticed the battery voltage was low. He took the controls and got us back to the airport we started from. But he had to call the tower on his phone because the radio was stuck on guard, presumably due to the electrical problem. The ammeter was at 0 the whole time, but one by one, instruments started going out and the voltage was falling rapidly. What do y'all think happened mechanically? I'm pretty well versed in cars, motorcycle repair, so I think it was an alternator failure, but the ammeter was at 0 when I expect it to be negative, so that's strange.
It definitely sounds like an alternator failure, but why would they not have that indication?
I had the same thing happen to me literally a week ago where I had a battery failure and the ammeter was at 0. So
do tell.
That makes a lot of sense. And guess what? I was also in Class B airspace.
What happened? Is this about you? Were you on a discovery flight?
No, it wasn't a discovery flight. I was with a student though. So it's a very similar to this. Let me backtrack a little bit. So I had the battery failure. Let's say it was last week. I don't know when it was, but I do know the day before I had an alternator failure. So I had back-to-back days, 2 different planes with failures. The first one, I was about to shoot an approach that was going to take me into minimums over in SoCal. My alternator failed. No student, so I was happy with that. And it was intuitively that all I did is I pressed the altitude hold button. I stopped my descent before I went into IMC.
What type of plane were you in?
A CRI 22.
An SR 22.
SR 22. Yeah, so it was real simple. It's just intuitively, I hit the altitude hold button. That way I didn't enter IMC.
The blue button?
Not the level button, just altitude hold.
Okay.
And then I told ATC I'm going to level off for a second. And then I recycled everything, ran a couple checklists to truly determine the alternator was failed, and just made an easy decision to go back to Vegas. And then the very next day, I had a battery failure that sounds exactly like this.
So how did the battery fail?
I don't know how the battery failed. What I do know is that I've never seen an indication like that before in the Cirrus.
What'd it say?
So it said low battery voltage. And I looked at everything. It was in a G7. So on the G7, it gives you a schematics of your electrical system, which is great. So my alternators were all working properly. I was getting zero discharge, but the battery was indicating it was dead completely. And that was confusing. So I go to the checklist and there's nothing there that really would resolve the problem. There basically was land as soon as practical type of thing. We know practical versus possible. And we were about an hour away. So I told the student, let's turn back. And we're VFR, not on flight bond or anything. And we get back closer to like the Vegas Bravo area. So I call them up. That way I have flight following just in case I needed something. And on the G7 schematics, it has a temperature gauge for the battery. And I watched the battery temp go from like 98 to about 110 in that time frame. And that caught my attention. I was like, that's abnormal. So I'm trying to get the POH and fumble through it. And I look at my phone and I got some bars on it. So guess who I call or text?
Me.
I text Mindy. I said, hey, I need your help. Can you go in the POH and try to find something about battery temperature on the G7? And she does. She finds a section in there that talks about how hot is too hot. Because that's now in my concern. It's a lithium battery. We all know that lithium batteries under pressure have the tendency of exploding.
Thermal runaway.
So she tells me once you get to about 140 plus degrees, if you're not on the ground,
whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever the temperature was. I think it was like 130 is like extra caution.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to tell.
145 is like, and if it gets over like 160, it will be on fire no matter what.
Basically, though, what I said was you'll notice that it's starting to trend up and quick. And if you start to see that happening, like you need to land immediately.
So with that being said, I have this information, which is great. Cell phones. And the temp just continually increases about a degree every couple minutes. So at this point I called.
It wasn't like screaming away.
It was 1 degree and I'm tracking it. I'm probably, let's say 30-ish minutes away. And I told Vegas, hey, can I get a more direct routing? I'm not an emergency, but I'm having an electrical issue. And without hesitation, they say, yep, go direct, clear to Bravo, clear direct Henderson.
Great advice. Ask for what you need.
And I said, perfect. So we go in. I have my student kind of work through the problem. Like, I'm not trying to give them all the tips. Like, this is a great experience because you know what I never had when I was training? An electrical issue. We did with Mojo, but that wasn't,
Our airplane is named Mojo for anyone that doesn't know.
Sorry.
Affectionately known as Mojo.
So we went through a bunch of processes and I was like, what is associated with this battery? And he gets to flaps eventually. I was like, oh, okay. So if our flaps fail, what's our approach going to be? And he walks me through everything and he looks at me and he's like, I think you should do the landing if that's the case. And I say, no. I've had many times to practice this. This is a great opportunity. I was like, I'm going to be with you, but this is awesome. So during that time, the temperature goes to about 120 and Vegas turned me off because I was in the final corridor and I just calmly said, I need to go direct now. And without hesitation, they stopped like 6 jets and said, go direct. And we were high enough that I just basically was idle all the way down.
Then tell them how Tower treated you. So approach was freaking awesome.
Approach stopped everybody. And they literally stopped Vegas final for me to cut through. And I kept it real fast. I was real helpful, but it doesn't matter. They did everything. They switched into Tower. And during the brief, I Henderson, for those of you who have ever been there, have two parallel runways. One is about 1,500 feet longer. So me and the student decided we're landing on the long runway, no matter what.
You might not have flaps.
No matter what. It's wider, it's long, who knows? Like something's wrong with this plane. We're taking the biggest one. So I check in with Tower, or what student does. I having him do everything. And Tower goes, make left base for 17 left. And he goes, I request 17 right. And Tower, I hate saying it.
No, tell the people what they say.
Tower goes, you can't land on 17 left? Like,
why do you need the big?
Why do you need that?
Like in a sassy
Like in
way.
a real sassy way.
Like condescending. Like, wow, you can't land that plane on the smaller runway.
Yeah. So then I chime in and I say, we're requesting 17 right. And he goes, do you need any assistance? And I said, I need to land on 17 right. And he's
That's
like,
the assistance I need, buddy.
and he kept like with this sassy thing and he wouldn't say anything. I was like, and then finally I just was so annoyed with this. I'm trying to fly the plane. My student's trying to fly the plane. I said, I'm having an electrical issue. I'm landing on 17 right. And I just stopped.
It's like none of their business. Like it is. Like you had already said you're having issues and then they're going to question that you need the bigger runway. Like, get out of town.
And here's the thing. If they told me there was a sequencing problem, I would have accommodated. I wasn't going to fall out of the sky. Like we were perfectly fine, but there was no traffic and nothing. And I know that. I know that here's the thing. I feel like I'm able to talk on this. You know, some people shy away from talking about ATC experiences, and I get that because you don't know. But I do know. Like I can say confidently, like if I'm being an inconvenience, first of all, it doesn't matter, right? And that it doesn't matter.
I just don't like that any controller would pressure you in any type of way, even if you weren't having an issue. Maybe you were just a student pilot and you were more comfortable on the longer runway. You should be able to request that and not be pressured by the controller, like saying like, oh, wow, you're a loser pilot. You can't land on the shorter runway. Like that shouldn't come across the radio.
No, the reality is you as a pilot always have the authority to request what you want. The controller's job is for efficiency and safety. So let's say I wasn't
judge you for said request.
Yeah, just throw another example. Let's say you're unfamiliar, and I see it all the time. They put jets on the small runway and they do not want to do it at all. That's fine. Like the controller should say do 360s until it's available or whatever. Anyways, the point of the story is Vegas approach was amazing. And I come back into my home airport and the guys basically give me an attitude for an emergency situation because I land and everybody at the school has the radio on. So of course they heard me say firmly, I have an electrical issue. So I was met immediately with our chief of maintenance and chief pilot and everything. And they're like, what's up? What's going on? They already had Cirrus on the line already.
Shout out All in Aviation. That's where Kevin works and teaches. A great friend and coworker of mine owns it, Mr. Paul Salick. He's pretty much the mayor of Las Vegas. Superb guy, runs an amazing operation that Kevin is teaching at. And like Kevin said, met by everyone that could help, that could do something. Cirrus Maintenance is on the phone, on the line already to get things fixed and handled. Amazing operation over there. So, hey, if you guys are ever in Vegas, let's do a little shout out. Why don't you come fly with Kevin? You can do that. Come to Las Vegas, or if you are just in town, book a discovery flight, request Kevin Lindheim to be your pilot.
And we got the G7 Plus now too.
And come, especially if you've never flown a Cirrus and you just want to try one out, come fly with him. Do a discovery flight in a Cirrus. He'll take you over the Grand Canyon, right? Like, what do you do? Yeah,
if you book a discovery flight with me in the Cirrus, we'll go to the Hoover Dam and the Grand Canyon because it's so fast. Even doing all that, we won't be in the air more than an hour and a half, even if we take our time.
So that could be really, really fun for you guys, you listeners that might be in our neck of the woods. Come fly with Kevin. And as always, thank you guys for listening. Write in your stories. We love to read them. We love to have them on the podcast. You guys are what makes this podcast great. And we will see you guys next time.
See you guys. Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit CaptainJohnDoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.